Hey guys, so the Oscar nominations are finally in. This is a time of year that I'm always really excited for. I'm sure you saw in my Oscar predictions video that I do my best to follow awards season as closely as I can. Now, I got a lot right in that video, but I did get some wrong, but in all fairness, the Academy threw some curveballs at us. But with the Academy Awards ceremony actually about a month and a half away, I thought it'd be fun to do a video series kind of breaking down some of the categories here. So I want to do the acting categories and then culminate with a Best Picture breakdown video. So today I want to go ahead and get started with Best Supporting Actor. How this is going to work is I'm going to be going down each of the nominees, sort of my takeaways from their performances, maybe a case for them to win, some of their past work, so that you have all the information before awards night hits. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started here with the first person nominated here. By the way, this is going to be in alphabetical order by last name, alright? So this isn't a ranking or anything. I am going to reveal who I think is going to win at the end of the video, but for now we're just going by alphabetical order. So first up we have Ciaran Hinds from Belfast. Now, a couple of stats on Hinds. This is actually his first ever Academy Award nomination. I was actually kind of surprised by that because he has a really long filmography behind him, both containing sort of critically acclaimed movies and also huge blockbuster films. Most recently, you may have seen him in the Justice League movie without knowing it was him. It was a mocap role, motion capture, where he played the villain Steppenwolf. So if you do a side-by-side of Steppenwolf and his role in Belfast, you probably won't recognize him. But he was also a minor role in the Harry Potter series, and he's had a lot of supporting roles over the years in critically acclaimed movies such as There Will Be Blood, one of my favorite movies from the 2000s and of all time. But a couple of things about his performance in Belfast. So he plays the grandfather of our lead character, Buddy. And so the purpose of his character in the movie is to kind of contextualize the troubles for Buddy and to also make him feel safe. What results is a performance that has a lot of really great philosophical lines. I actually think that he has some of the best lines in any movie of 2021. It's very clear that whenever Branagh was writing the screenplay for this, that he thought a lot of this character that Hinds was playing. And this is all the while he's going through a very serious illness that he may not see the end of. And so whenever his grandson is coming to him looking for some sort of comfort, he's really good at playing it to where, you know, everything is going to be okay, but also things are going to change. You shouldn't be afraid of change. One specific scene that I really like is whenever it's just Hinds and Buddy talking about the fact that Buddy and his parents might be moving away from Belfast to get away from everything, and Buddy is just so scared because he has never left Belfast. He has his family there. He, of course, has his grandfather and his grandmother there. And so he's scared. And, Hinds, with his impending death, basically, has to comfort him in the fact that he will always be there for him and he'll always be okay because he has caring parents, even though he may not physically be there with him, either through Buddy and his family leaving Belfast or himself passing away. And to me, what makes Hinds' performance great and what always made him a lock was what he didn't say with his performance. Like I said before, he has some of the best lines in any movie of 2021, but you can see through his conversations with Buddy that there's a lot beneath the surface there. There's a lot of history there. There's a lot of paternal instinct there kicking in to where he has to try to find the line of being real with Buddy while also not scaring him. Because what was going on in Belfast in 1969 must have been very scary for a little kid. And this is something that Hinds could draw from personal experience. He was actually 16 years old living in Belfast whenever the Troubles actually kicked off. And you can read an interview where he talks about it, where he actually lived not too far away from Kenneth Branagh, the writer and director of this movie. And he was 16 years old, so a little bit older than Buddy's character, but he could still draw from a lot of personal experience in his performance. And so I've always liked Hinds' performance in Belfast. I think that it was really overall solid and he's well deserving of the nomination. I actually went back and rewatched this movie a couple of days ago before this video, just so I could get a better idea of his performance and how I felt about it. Because the first time around, I was really paying attention to him and Dornan. I still think that Dornan probably deserved a nomination in this category, but I also understand that Hinds was the better performance of the two, in my opinion, and so overall, I'm really happy with his nomination. So those were a few key points about Hinds' performance that I really liked. So now I'm going to go ahead and move on to Troy Kotsur for Coda. A couple of key stats here. This is also his first ever nomination, and it's only the second time in Oscars history that a deaf person has been nominated in an acting category. The first person being his Coda co-star, Marlee Matlin, who brought home the trophy in 1986. I'm not familiar with most of Kotsur's filmography before Coda, but something that I thought was really interesting was he directed a movie called No Ordinary Hero a few years ago, and it is the first major film ever directed by a deaf person. And I believe all the producers were deaf as well. So while I hadn't heard of Kotsur before Coda, he's been making huge strides for the deaf community in film for many years. So I really want to go back and watch more of his stuff now because he is spectacular in Coda. I go in depth in my predictions video about how much I liked his performance. I think that he has one of the most heartwarming performances of the year. I actually went back and watched it last night so I could review a few scenes and actually see if I want him to win. And I will say, I skipped around in the movie the second time around just so I could get a better sense of his performance and how he stands just on his own, aside from everything else in the movie. And I gotta say, he has several memorable scenes. With some of these nominees, you might point out a scene or two where they really stole the show and they proved why they should be nominated. But Kotsur, he has a few of those. One of my favorites is whenever he's sitting in the truck bed with Emilia Jones, who plays his daughter. And obviously he can't hear her sing, but he asks her to sing for him and he puts his hands over her throat so that he could feel the vibrations in it and he can also read her lips. So it's about the best that he can do. And man, the emotion in Kotsur's face there says everything about his character. I think that he has a very great, heartfelt performance throughout all of Coda, and he's actually really funny in the movie too. There's a funny scene in the beginning whenever Emilia Jones has to accompany him and Marlee Matlin to the doctor, and I won't give away what they're there for, but it's pretty funny, honestly. I was really laughing at that the second time I watched it. So I still think that there's a solid case for Kotsur to win this. Coda is definitely more of a feel-good family type of movie than The Power of the Dog, which I'll get to here in a sec. So if Coda plays really high with the Academy, which they got a lot of nominations, then there's a serious case for Kotsur to win this. I don't believe he's been winning across most of the award circuits. He's been getting nominated everywhere, but he could pull off an upset come Academy Award night, but I'll get to that later. But now I want to get to the big shocker in the nominations. I couldn't believe that Jesse Plemons got nominated here. Not because he was bad in the movie, I don't think that at all, but he didn't get nominated anywhere before this. And you see the Academy do this from time to time where there's an actor who hasn't been nominated anywhere who all of a sudden gets an acting nod at the Academy Awards. The person that comes to mind is Marlee Matlin for Animal Kingdom several years ago, I think like a decade now. So the Academy has definitely done this before. I didn't think that they were going to do it for Plemons. There were just so many people up in this category. You had Ben Affleck getting nominations, Jared Leto, Jamie Dornan. Heck, even Mike Feist was getting a lot of traction for West Side Story. I was shocked with Plemons' nomination, but I love that he did. This is his first ever nomination, but he's been around for a long time in Hollywood. Something that I really know him from is he was a main character in Friday Night Lights. He actually played Landry on that show, but even before then, he played the bully in Like Mike, and really he's transitioned from being, I guess, a child TV actor and getting those supporting child roles into, honestly, a really well-rounded and great career as an adult. He has consistently gotten these supporting roles, these smaller roles, in really huge movies. So honestly, if anybody was going to get an outside nomination, I'm not surprised it was him, because he is someone that the Academy has been watching for years now. He's been in several Steven Spielberg movies. He played a supporting role in Adam McKay's Vice a few years ago. And he also had a great performance in a comedy a few years ago called Game Night. A really different performance, but he really swung for it, and I think that he hit it out of the park in that movie. So he's been turning in really great performances whenever he's had a chance, and he's also been making the right connections that he's had to be doing. So he was about due for an Academy Award nomination, but he just hadn't really been as prominent in award caliber movies in the past. I am surprised that it came this year and not next year for Killers of the Flower Moon with Martin Scorsese now. So you might want to be on the lookout for him to score back-to-back Best Supporting Actor nods here. But anyway, him in Power of the Dog. I rewatched his performance again. Same thing that I did with Kotsur, same thing that I did with Hinds. And I didn't get anything new out of it because I thought that he was great the first time. He has a very understated role here, but it is excellent, and this is why I think it is. He has to play opposite Benedict Cumberbatch, who is obviously a very emotional character in that movie. He plays his brother in the film, so you see years of history of he knows that he can't, fight back against Phil, the Cumberbatch's character, who's clearly a very smart guy. You can't really get a gauge on how intelligent Plemons' character is in the film, but he at least knows how to communicate with his brother. He's very subdued, very calm, and chooses his words very precisely with him. And in a film where you have great performances from the entire cast, it's easy for something like that to get crowded out. I mean, up to this point, like I said, he hadn't been getting nominations. Kodi Smit-McPhee had been getting the nominations. His co-star nominated in the same category. So I'm really happy that the Academy recognized this great performance from Plemons, because it's so easy to forget about it, and it's so easy to watch the movie and really not think it was anything. But if you actually analyze what he's doing with the character, he is unrecognizable in the role, and honestly, I'm super happy that he got this nomination. Now, I will go ahead and say, I don't think he's going to win. I think that this is solely to recognize his work in the film, and also the Academy was just really high on the Power of the Dog. But I am overall very happy with Plemons' nomination here. I'm happy that he's finally getting recognized after his decades of work in the film industry. But moving on from Plemons, now we have J.K. Simmons for Being the Ricardos. This was another surprising nomination for me. I wasn't shocked like I was with Plemons, because Simmons had gotten a few nominations here and there, and the Academy ended up being really high on Being the Ricardos. I'm actually surprised they didn't nominate it for Best Picture. But anyway, a few stats here about J.K. Simmons. This is his second ever Academy Award nomination. His first one being the win in the same category for one of my favorite films ever, Whiplash. If you haven't seen his performance in Whiplash, please do. It's one of the best performances I've ever seen. And I have to admit, I have a little bit of personal bias for J.K. Simmons. I've been a huge fan of his career because he actually attended the University of Montana, which is in the same town that I, for all intents and purposes, grew up in the state. You see the Montana poster right there. So I've been a huge fan of Simmons ever since I found out he was a Montana Grizzly. Go Grizz. And some of his previous work, like I said before, Whiplash, and what most people probably know him from is as J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man movies, all the Sam Raimi movies, as well as the two most recent Tom Holland movies. And then aside from that, similar to Hinds, he's really just turned in solid supporting roles throughout most of his career, both in big budget films as well as smaller Academy Award style movies. Now, this is the one that I was really high on Plemons' performance, and whenever he got the Oscar nomination, I was happy because I could address that. It was really great. Simmons' performance until he got nominated kind of flew under the radar for me. It's always hard playing a real-life character, and I don't think I really appreciated that aspect of his role the first time that I watched Being the Ricardos. Don't get me wrong, he gives a really great, solid supporting role here, and he does exactly what a supporting character should do, and he nudges the main characters in the right direction to progress the plot. And so he accomplishes that really well, and then also looking back at some of the footage of the person he was playing, he did a really good job. It's clear that he really put in the work to understand this character and sort of who he was beyond the surface. And he even, for the role, did some of the same tactics that the person he was playing did whenever he was on I Love Lucy. For example, he would, the actual real-life guy whose name I'm forgetting right now, he would get rid of any page of the script for every episode of I Love Lucy that didn't have him in it. And on the surface level, you could look at that and be like, he doesn't want to read the rest of the script, kind of a lazy thing. But honestly, it's a really interesting move by an actor that I hadn't considered before, because if you do that, you are better placed into your character situation, because in real life you don't have all of the information that every single character has in your film or TV show. And so Simmons did that for Being the Ricardos, which I think is really interesting. So overall, I am happy to see him nominated here. I'm a huge fan of J.K. Simmons. Again, go Grizz. And he's really good at Being the Ricardos. Another guy who I don't see winning in this. I see it just as a really good nod to a really great performance here. But last but certainly not least, Kodi Smit-McPhee for The Power of the Dog. And I'll get into his performance here in a sec, but a few stats on him. This is his first ever nomination as well, and he's a young guy. He's 25, but he has been working for years now. A few of his most prominent roles were in The Road with Viggo Mortensen in 2009, a great movie. Definitely don't watch that after a hard day. That movie's a bit depressing, but you know what you sign up for if you even look at the poster for that. Yeah, so he was in that in 2009. He was also in the American remake of Let the Right One In called Let Me In, which is actually a really underrated horror movie. I recommend that for sure. And most recently, he's played the role of Nightcrawler in the new X-Men movies. Now, I've gone back and watched Smit-McPhee's performance in this movie a couple of times now, and it only gets better with every single viewing. I remember the first time I watched it, I could definitely acknowledge that he was great in the movie, but by the end, it changed everything that I thought I knew about this character. And now, it's one of those performances that changes the movie entirely once you have all of the information about his character at the end. I would recommend, The Power of the Dog is a slow movie, but it's one of those where you really should watch it twice. Maybe have like a week gap. Definitely don't do back-to-back viewings of this, but yeah, after my second and third viewing of this film, he only keeps getting better and better and better at playing this weird sort of Norman Bates type of character, except in the West. And, oh man, I was really, really high on Kotsur before my second and third viewing of Power of the Dog, but I guess I can just get right into it on who I think is going to win. Man, like Smit-McPhee, he just did so much in his role. There's so much underneath the surface, and it completely recontextualizes everything once you have watched the end. It's like the performance changes after the first viewing. And that's something that I can't say any of these actors did in any of their movies. Kodi Smit-McPhee basically plays two characters here. He plays the character who he's, giving off to Benedict Cumberbatch, even his mom in the movie. But then there's this whole other person underneath the surface that you don't even know is there until you watch the movie for the first time. And I wholeheartedly believe that Kodi Smit-McPhee is going to win this, both for his performance and because the movie that he was in got 12 nominations. So the Academy is clearly high on The Power of the Dog, and Kodi Smit-McPhee has been getting wins, not nominations, wins in several awards bodies. And so at the end of the day, I think it's going to be Kodi Smit-McPhee that brings home the Oscar for this. With a wild card Troy Kotsur win, I would definitely be happy with Troy Kotsur winning. I do think that he was great in the film. The only two that I really don't see winning here are Jesse Plemons and J.K. Simmons, not because their performances weren't good. I think that they were great in their movies, but they just haven't been consistently nominated for their roles here. Simmons got a few, like I said before, and really I just consider those great nods for the actors and acknowledging how great they were. And overall, I think Ciaran Hinds was really solid in Belfast, but I don't see an Academy Award winning performance there. I see it in Kodi Smit-McPhee for miles, and I see it in Troy Kotsur too. And I'm actually going to backtrack on who I want to win here if it wasn't obvious. You know, the Oscars, they lose a lot of their luster if you don't win because of merit. And I think if this is a true merit award, Kodi Smit-McPhee gave the best performance in the category. You know, I have to set personal biases aside. I'm a huge fan of Simmons. I love Kotsur's performance. I really have enjoyed Plemons' career, and I think Hinds gives a really heartfelt, personal performance in Belfast. But Kodi Smit-McPhee really did give the best performance out of any of these guys this year. It doesn't matter, or it shouldn't matter, that he's a young guy. I think that he should bring home the statue come March 27th. I may have that date wrong, but that's what I think it is. I'll correct myself down here if that's incorrect. So that's my Best Supporting Actor breakdown. What do you think of the nominees? I know that I'm certainly happy with all of these performances here. I think they're all very well deserving for sure. Stay tuned for my Best Supporting Actress breakdown video. I had a lot of fun rewatching these movies, and I can't wait to rewatch the movies in that category as well. A few shockers, but I'll get to that. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time on the 100 Movie Marathon. Bye, guys.